Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the latest edition of The Last Rep. I'm Bob Cicherillo, along with my co-host David Baye, and a very special guest here today, none other than the man himself, Big T in the house, the X-Man. What's up, Tony?
What's up, brother? Glad we finally got it together.
Breaking new ground here. We got the brand new electronics here. We've got a three-part system, so we've got everybody here. Think of that, David, huh? Groundbreaking, trailblazing.
I think it's fantastic. I think we probably have a lot of fun.
I'm actually in my own office. Look, I don't have Liz Taylor behind me anymore.
I gotta get some. I gotta get something cool to put in the background for next time.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. Yeah, you look a little shaded back there, Tom. I don't know what's going on, man, but well, let's get down to some biz, Tom. Now, you've got a show coming up this week. Actually, just in a few days, you're going to be on your way to Poland, of all places. First ever pro show there, I believe, and our good friend Kevin Levrone putting that one on. How you looking, X-Man?
We ready, Bob? I've been on the road for the last 30 days. It all came together.
Well, you better hope it's coming together because you got a big flight ahead of you, and you got the Arnold the week after that, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So no signs of slowing down for Tony. The big news these days, Tony, and I hate to bring it up, but I have to, but is your age, believe it or not. People are finding it absolutely astounding, which is my age, by the way, so I take great pride in saying that. But people are just amazed that you can maintain this level of physique, still be one of the contenders of the top bodybuilders in the world at 50 years old.
Well, I had a rough 2015, and I always try to take, the positive out of anything that seems like it may be a negative, and I found that, I just had to dig deep and found some resilience and not doing so well for a change and really having to assess where I am in the sport and in my life and, physically see if I want to continue or whatever. And I found myself. And I think people are going to be surprised to see what I bring, these next 4 or 5 shows.
Well, our resident expert, David Baye, will also be on his way to Poland in just a few days. David, you'll be there covering the show for MD. Obviously, you'll see Tony there. It's an impressive lineup, to say the least.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a really good show. We got Tony there, Johnny Jackson, Cedric's scheduled to go, Branch Warren, the young Australian guy, Josh Lenarowitz, Michael Kaliafanos. I always mess his name up. Young guy Vitaly Fativ, and a handful of other European guys. So it's definitely going to be a good show. Kevin did a great job promoting it and was able to put together a pretty tough lineup of competitors. A week before the Arnold, there was going to be some questions as to whether the heavy hitters from the Arnold were going to want to be traveling internationally a week before a show like that. And Kevin put out some good prize money, and I think from a competitor standpoint, the guys want to jump into a show with Kevin's name on it. So all in all, Kevin did a great job promoting. It should be a great show. I'm looking forward to my first trip to Poland, although I have a feeling Poland in February isn't going to be much warmer than Wisconsin.
No, probably not there, buddy. Definitely bring a big coat. Well, Tony, you made some headlines this week. You had some very pointed comments earlier in the week on a video that we saw from our good friends at Iron Cinema. But I wanted to give you a chance to clarify some of those comments. Some of those were pretty out there, so I wanted to give you a chance to kind of expound on it or expand on it more, if you will. Your basic contention was that there wasn't any standards in the sport of bodybuilding. Can you explain that?
There aren't any really, but I would just voice my opinion about what I'd like to see, more formal prejudging, basically. I didn't get to really put it in eloquent words like I wanted to, but basically something that looks a little more orchestrated, or just something that's more formal that the audience can kind of understand, the fans can kind of get behind. Nothing major, Bob. Something very simple like mandatory poses being mandatory, and everybody hitting it the same way, at the same time. Basic shit like that. So I don't really know how it's misconstrued. I really haven't seen the video. I don't know how they edited it down, but I didn't really like the title because that's not what I was saying at all. So, but I know how journalists try to make it sound good or whatever. I'm not really concerned that I said anything out of the way or harming or distasteful or nothing like that. It's just my own personal opinion. Doesn't really mean anything. But like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, so I kind of have a a point of view from the audience perspective. I got to sit in the audience at the Olympia the past couple years, been on stage, so, it's just, like I say, it's just my opinion. I wasn't trying to, say anything derogatory or negative or anything like that. But, it will be kind of cool to see something a little more formal, a little more mandatory, a little more standardized, just so, just like every other sport.
Well, go ahead, Dave.
Tony, I was going to say one of the things that you had commented on in that video that that I found a little bit interesting that Bob and I were going to talk about is when you say like the mandatory poses. Now, right now, when they call poses like a front double bicep, a guy like yourself and other guys that are known for that type of pose, maybe Darren Charles, Ahmad Haidar, guys who scrunch down a little bit, sit on their abs a little bit to show off their midsection. Obviously, with you having a real tight waist, that benefits you. Whereas other guys like Dennis Wolf or Phil Heath will suck in their air and kind of do like a vacuum. Sean Roden will get 1 foot offset to the left. Some guys get their foot positioning. I mean, is that kind of what you were alluding to? Is that you'd like to see, like for example, have the judges say feet are going to be shoulder width apart, toes facing forward. Everybody's going to hit the pose in the same fashion, because essentially in the mandatories, a front double, when they call front double bicep, we know everybody's going to hit the front double bicep. But what I got from your interview is that right now guys are hitting even that pose in their own fashion, and you'd like to see them even narrow down the front double bicep to where everybody's hitting that pose the exact same way. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
When you're judging something, especially multiple things at one time, it's hard to focus. So if you got Kai hitting it his way, Sean hitting it his way, me hitting it my way, Dexter hitting it his way, Dennis hitting it his way, and then everybody hitting it at a different time as well, how can you really judge that? So just like there's different routes, there's a down and out, a down and in, a corner post, post corner. It's just, front double bicep straight, front double bicep, one leg out. I mean, it's up to us to call it whatever we want to call it, but I'm saying somebody needs to take the time out to make it stationary, mandatory, standardized, so people can become fans of the sport and not just individuals, because most people are confused in the audience about what's going on. Other than somebody getting stood in the middle, no one else knows what's really happening.
Well, I gotta kind of respectfully disagree with that, Tone. I mean, bodybuilding as an individual sport inherently, isn't the whole point that you get to hit the pose the way you want to show off your physique at the best of its ability? I mean, for instance, I hit a vacuum with the very traditional vacuum double bicep. I'm not comfortable hitting a pose like you do with the abs are down. It doesn't look good on me. But why shouldn't I be able to showcase my physique the way I want?
Of course. I'm not saying do away with anything. I'm just saying, if you're judging the physique, you're supposed to be judging who has what and who doesn't have what. So it's just easier to judge if you just standardize. I mean, there's 3 or 4 different ways to do it. It could be everybody hit number 1, everybody hit number 2. I mean, you're going to have advantages in some poses and not advantages in other poses. But your whole physique is what's being judged, not how well you can hide your flaws. That's where it is right now.
Well, wasn't it our buddy Arnold that kind of expounded on that way back when in Pumping Iron, saying that he had that ability to kind of hide some weaknesses, to put out his strengths, and basically to expose, or to showcase that. I mean, isn't that kind of some of the art of bodybuilding?
Of course it is. Again, like I say, I'm not trying to get rid of that. I'm just trying to say that right now there's no formal or standard. We could at least do something simple like hit it at the same time, or you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to change the game or nothing like that. I'm like, Bob, right now it's just random. Everybody's elbowing each other for position. I'm talking about basic, simple type of shit. Like when somebody's shooting a free throw, nobody can move. When the quarterback says down set, nobody can. Simple stuff. Nothing dramatic. Nothing changing the judging or the scoring. Something that makes it look like we're professionals and not just up there randomly doing things.
Well, I got to. I get what you're trying to say. It's a little difficult, obviously, to kind of put it in words, but like guys hitting elbows. I mean, the guys move. I mean, you've been involved in as many.
I was on the drill team, so if you do dress, unless you have 12-foot arms, you're not going to hit the person. That takes 3 seconds.
You might have 12-foot arms out of anybody out there, but it's that wingspan you got, man. But you made You made another comment, Tony, I definitely wanted to address, and that was you made a comment, something to the effect of, people and their sponsors, guys, that are, out there not basically getting judged on the merits of their physique. And I wanted to give you a chance to clarify that for me after you take a drink of your water.
No, I've been in the sport for 28 years, so it has happened within that span of time. I didn't say it happened last week or at the last show. I'm just saying those things need to be eliminated from the sport. I don't go to every show, so I don't know if it's happening or not. I'm just going by what, out of my 28 years of experience, it has happened in the past. That's it.
Tony, do you think that some people might kind of throw the same thing back in your face for the shows that you won, though?
Maybe. I'm not perfect. So yeah.
Oh no, I'm just the Q&A.
But like I say, certain things can be eliminated by just setting simple, basic standards. That's all. That's all. If the person who wins upheld all the standards and everybody else did, then no one can leave the building arguing. I travel all over the world, so I hear all this stuff coming from every which way from, because I'm a competitor as well. So they're asking me, and I'm like, I'm not judging the show. I don't know. So all this is just basically Toney Freeman's opinion. Doesn't really mean anything. I'm not trying to step on nobody's toes or try to say anything's wrong with whatever. All I'm saying is it would be cool if we had some kind of simple, basic standards that everyone can follow in our sport that we love so much.
Well, I think to a point there are standards. I mean, certainly
I didn't say there were zero standards.
Right. I mean,
there are standards, but there's a lot of unhidden, what do they call it, subjective type of things that don't really necessarily have to be subjective.
Well, the whole sport's subjective. We all know that as bodybuilders. All three of us have competed. However, there's, I don't know. I mean, I hear stuff all over, too. I mean, obviously, I travel a lot, as you do, Tony, and I get a lot of different input from a lot of different people. And it's tough because a lot of them don't come from a place of knowledge like we do, especially, those of us that are involved more on the back end, the business end of bodybuilding. Like one of the comments you made on the video was that you'd like to see shows in performing arts centers. Now, while very admirable, and believe me, I'm old school, Tony, I love a good performing arts center. Logistically, it's just not possible at a lot of shows. A lot of these big checks that come out there are at expos, like the Europas. Ed Pariso puts on the Europa shows, or at expos, are huge events. But you couldn't have one of those in a performing arts center. It just wouldn't work.
I'm cool with that too, Bob. I'm not, I'm just saying what it should be because it's a performing art. When you put it in a makeshift auditorium, it just looks makeshift, bro. That's all. They don't play soccer and basketball stadiums. I'm just, if they do, they change the floor to make it look right and sound right. Again, all these are my opinions. They don't really mean anything. Somebody asked me a question and I just answered it.
Sure.
So people don't have to, it's not law. When you go to Wikipedia and you read all the stuff that they say, most of that stuff is not fact. So it's just how they wrote it down or however they said it. Somebody asked me some questions. I basically answered them. I have no authority nor ability to change it. So after I said it, it pretty much becomes thin air.
Well, your opinion certainly is welcome, Tony. I mean, obviously, you're a veteran of this game. Everybody enjoys, people's different opinions, different views on the sport. You did actually compare us to the Westminster Club Kennel Dog Show, did you not?
Well, I've sat there and watched dog shows because I was like, how do they know? How do they figure all that stuff out? Because they just write down things that are standardized across the situation.
It's a rough job.
It's a rough job and it's subjective, but it works.
You get that, David? Rough.
That was
anybody getting this stuff?
No shortage of good ones. I guess from my standpoint, Bob and I had talked about the Performing Arts Center thing, and I think I can kind of agree with both of you that as a competitor, as a judge, and now as somebody that works in the media and has emceed shows, I think it looks more prestigious when the show is at a performing arts center. But I'm friends with promoters, and I understand the logistic issues that they face. And like Bob said with the Europas, sometimes those shows, that's not, if you're going to have a big expo, unless there's something attached with a performing arts center, like take the Arnold Classic coming up, and then the Arnold Australia coming up, Toronto. Tony, you've done Toronto, it's the same thing. The convention center actually has a performing arts center in it. So some of those shows you can actually have, and at Toronto you have an expo stage for one portion of the show, you have a performing arts center for other portions of the show. But I've been at shows where they've done a fantastic job with just just a stage format in an expo hall. I have friends here in Wisconsin that just got a really nice convention center to put their shows on at in the summer and the fall. And it's not tiered seating. It's not a performing arts center per se, but the convention center's got beautiful arch ceilings. The stage setup that they do is nice. So I think the venue comes down a lot more to just making sure that the promoters are putting some effort into making it a presentable venue and just putting some care into it. So I'd rather see somebody have a nice expo hall with a nice stage up with a nice backdrop than say I've been to some pretty sketchy performing arts centers for shows. But I think I get where Tony's coming from, where just your athletes, you have your friends, your family, the fans coming. So you want to be in a facility that you can get out on stage and feel confident and happy with where you're at. But I think as far as narrowing it down to whether you're at a performing arts center or an expo hall, I think, again, logistically that becomes difficult for the promoters, and I think it more or less just comes down to it just being a nice place that's well set up with the athletes and the competitors, or rather the athletes and the fans in mind.
Yep. In that case, a simple basic standard. In other words, if it can't be a performing arts theater, then it needs to be such and such and blah, blah, blah. So it can be consistent across the board. Again, like I say, these are not even suggestions. These are just my opinion. I've been, Tony Doherty kind of got me spoiled a little bit, to be honest with you. I mean, his venue is kind of ridiculous. Performing arts theater. He got the whole backstage set up with the, you know what I'm saying? So everybody can't do that. Okay, cool. But that's where it comes from. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I've never seen it done before. Then you got shows where people got the lights that they roll in and the freaking halfway leaning state. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. On a professional level, can we just have something that looks like we're professional? That's it.
Ironically enough, Bob, the best lighting in the history of the IFBB, and on a side note that I think we can all agree on, and the Iron Man, the old Iron Man that they had. If you go look at anybody who looks up pictures of the best lighting ever, it was the Iron Man. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that was at like a convention center, wasn't it? But they brought somebody in. They brought somebody in specifically to set up the lighting, and those lights always made everybody look about 5 times leaner than they really were. It was fantastic.
Well, John Balick used to do the lighting for the Iron Man. That was his show, and John was one of the best photographers in the history of bodybuilding. Am I not mistaken, Tony? Didn't you win the Iron Man?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, Bob. That type of when you get that, when you come from that, and then you experience that, I mean, then you see kind of, you know what I mean? That's all. I'm a passionate dude, so sometimes it comes out a little sideways.
No, listen, man, that's what I love about you.
For me, per se, because, I've done 74 shows, so I'm really looking out for what's coming down the road and, me bringing my family and kids and inviting people. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm trying to say.
74. You're 70 behind, David. Look at that. How about that?
I've done more than 4. Probably not more than 4 than I'd want to show you pictures of, but I've done more than 4.
Well, Tony, the Arnold's coming up. Obviously, Poland's first, but the Arnold, we're only literally a week and a half out. But I want to get your take on the posing round being scored now, just at the Arnold's now, so everybody's clear on that. Okay, it's not across the IFBB yet. It's just at the Arnold's. They're going to kind of try to reinstitute it. I'm not a big fan of bringing it back scoring-wise. Your thoughts on it?
I mean, how are they really scoring it? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
That's the problem I got with it. So.
Yeah. Well, again, that's what I'm trying to say, Bob. We've been doing this too long to be confused, brother. That's all I'm saying. So, I'm going to bring an awesome routine, so that's all I care about. Are they giving away money this time?
No, I think they're just scoring it. See, but now I'm on the other side of the page. I would rather it not be scored as part of the actual bodybuilding judging. As you well know, Tony, and we're definitely in agreement on this. It's hard enough just to get regular subjective judging, let alone a posing routine. How do you compare Kai Green standing on his head to a Toney Freeman routine or a Cedric McMillan routine?
Exactly.
I would rather see a $20,000 prize put on the posing round.
Yeah, if they let the audience pick it, that might be cool.
Tony, does it change anything for you as far as putting together your posing routines? I know some guys might look at the Arnold and say, okay, the scoring round's being judged. I really got to bring it. I mean, for you, when you're looking at the difference between what you're going to do for a posing routine for the Levrone Classic and what you're going to do for the Arnold a week later, does knowing that it's being scored really do anything different for you as an athlete and a performer?
No, I mean, I've started preparing my routine like 3, 4 months out, and I pretty much listen to the song that I'm gonna use probably about 2,000 times before I get to the show. So it'll be a repeat for 4 shows, and then I'll change it up again like that. There's too much work to do to be trying to figure out 4 different pose routines and if they're going to be scoring. Or I just want to please the audience, do a great show, show my physique. I got some new poses that I'm able to do now since just my physique is that much better. So I'm just going to highlight that and have a good time.
Tony, obviously, the expectation, of course, is always to win at a bodybuilding show. We'd be remiss, David, if we didn't mention that. But what's a win for Toney Freeman at this show, short of winning the whole show, of course? Is it a top 3? Is it a top 5? Is it at this point in your career, where are we looking at in terms of goals that you either set for yourself or, like I say, what's a win for the X-Man?
I'm aiming to win, Bob, and I feel I don't really look like these guys. My physique is old school, even more so now. My whole goal for this show was to look like Flex Wheeler '93. So that's high lofty expectations, but it's not the current, what's happening or whatever. So, but that's classic me. I'm very, very close to that, and if the judges like it, that'll be awesome. If they don't, the fact of the matter is, a lot of people looked at me at Dallas and after Brazil, and I can't remember what other show I did, but saying I probably should hang it up, should retire. The Young Bucks has surpassed me, blah blah blah. But I'm just here to show everybody that that's just not the case. And I'm bringing probably the best thing that I've seen myself put forth. And I don't know what that's going to do, like judges wise, but at 49.5 years old and looking like I'm looking, I think I'm going to be all right.
Well, Tony, we certainly wish you the best, brother. Good luck and good travels, obviously, to Poland. David will be there covering the show, as you mentioned, so he'll keep us tabs on the X-Man. And thanks for joining us, Tony. Appreciate you taking some time out.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much.
All right, best of luck, Tony.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Well, David, the X-Man showing no signs of slowing down at 49.5 years of age. Very technical, Tony. But listen, nothing short of outstanding. I mean, you talk about him and Dexter. And Tony was very upfront in saying that he's old school. He realizes, I think, at this point, he's not obviously one of the young dogs. He's not, he even said, I'm not really what they're looking for. But I don't know if I quite agree with all that.
Yeah, he's. I'll tell you what. I've seen some pictures. And granted, you got to be real careful with judging shows off pictures that you see leading into a show. But I know his coach Dave Kalick, the guy he's working with this time around, and and Dave sent me some pictures that haven't made their way around the internet. And Tony's, he's looking good. And I'll, like we said, as to whether bathroom pics from 4 or 5, 3 weeks out are going to equal him, being at his best on stage, that's hard to say. But he looks good. Like you said, there's no slowing down for him. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares. But the thing is, that Poland show, it's a mix of, you got Johnny's a little bit older, Branch is a little bit older, Cedric's not really young. And then you got some of the younger guys, Vitaly Fativ, Lenarowitz. These are some of the newer breeds. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. And same thing for the Arnold. Young guys versus old guys. It'll be interesting.
Well, one thing that was interesting was his comments. Now, we all saw the video that he did just this last week, but he didn't really seem interested in kind of taking it any further than what he did. Actually, he almost looked like he took a step back in terms of, look, it's just my opinion. I'm just kind of throwing this out there, kind of a mentality. So I'm not so sure anybody should really put a lot more thought and process into that. I think it's just Tony just being Tony.
No, and there's so many people that are going to latch on to his first video, and and they definitely angled it, with their title and everything to try to make it controversial. And people love that in this industry. People love controversy, and I think Tony tried making the point that, hey man, this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to be, not trying to ruffle too many feathers. But I'm no stranger to saying a few things that
Right.
that I gotta take a step back and reanalyze and stuff like that. And I think everybody at some point or another, especially the way your brain's functioning a few weeks out from a show, sometimes you fire from the hip, and when you get a chance to sit back and think about it, sometimes it's like, all right, well, maybe I should have worded that a little bit differently or whatever. But Tony's a good dude, and wish him the best.
Well, I want to talk about just a few minutes, David, about the context of what he said, though, because that is interesting. Are there standards in bodybuilding? Now, I think he's a little off base on that one. I mean, I think there's absolute standards, and as a judge, I got to be honest. I mean, you've sat there on a panel in the past. I mean, I've done certainly my share years ago, and I'm on the stage, obviously, these days right there. I got to be honest. I don't need anybody hitting the pose at the same time. I don't need them hitting it the same way, the same shape, or the same form. I can judge these guys however they want to hit it, you know what I mean, and clearly make a distinction between who has the better physique.
Yeah, I wanted to give him a chance to clarify, but I completely disagree with everybody having to hit it exactly the same. I get where he's coming from. If everybody hits the pose exactly the same, then you get to judge it exactly the same. But when you're talking front double bicep, look, everybody's got their hands up, they're flexing their biceps, their feet are in relatively the same position. It's essentially the same pose, and so if as long as everybody's hitting the pose, the lat spread. One guy might have his feet kicked out real far. Dorian Yates used to hit a lat spread, and he'd have one leg almost straight back.
That's right.
As opposed to out a little bit wider. And I don't think telling a guy everybody has to hit the pose exactly the same way is going to change the quality of the judging. And then you could really start getting into splitting hairs here.
Sure.
Where you have you have some modeling shows or stuff like that. I did a little bit of that when I was real young, my late teens and stuff, where they had footprints out where they actually wanted you to stand.
Right.
Like actual footprints. You walk out and you stand, your 2 feet are on the little shoe prints. I suppose you could do that, have shoe prints everywhere, and your feet have to be in there. But and I'm not trying to turn this into a big slippery slope argument. But I think that the way they judge it is fine. Getting guys to hit the poses at the same time, at the national level and at the NPC level, Steve Weinberger is quick to say hit your poses, no theatrics. Right. And a lot of the local judges are doing that too. So that's really kind of just an IFBB thing where, the guys like to set up the pose, but they're also showing it off. If you call a rear lat spread and everybody just hits the rear lat spread, look how much you miss from guys showing off their hamstrings, pulling their arms back and showing their lower back detail. So you're missing a lot. Bob, I'm going to go hit a light here in my living room. And so my dining. Can you see me all right?
Yeah, listen, it's not the good.
I feel like I'm a little dark here. Am I good?
It's not the kitchen classic, where the good light is and all that stuff. But no, your teeth are brightening up the whole.
Perfect. Then I'll take it.
Yeah, listen, I mean, it's all relative. Listen, hitting the pose at the same time means nothing, really. It's ultimately what the pose looks like, which ultimately everybody does at some point, relatively speaking. And any good judge worth his salt can easily distinguish. Now, again, does it get tougher when you have better physiques? Of course. But the idea of guys bumping up, listen, everybody knows the bodybuilders all move in towards the center. Every pose, man, they get a little bit closer because everybody.
Weinberger's got to yell at him to spread out.
Yeah, but that's just the nature of the beast. Everybody thinks the light in the center is the best light for some bizarre reason, even though the stage is set all the way across. So.
Just want to be in the center, that's all.
Well, yeah, that's really what it is the closer you are to the center you are, the better that the judges got you, potentially looking. So, but bringing the placings into order. And you can see now, Toney, I think, is very, I think he speaks for a lot of the guys when we talk about the posing round, which has obviously gotten a lot of conversation lately, David, where they're actually going to pose it. But you asked him point blank, is it something that you're going to put a lot of stock into? And he shrugged his shoulders and said, not really.
I would hope every single, and this is my hope. I would hope everybody would answer the same way Toney did, because to me, it's still, I'm 36 years old. Still would be a dream to get on a professional bodybuilding stage, and if I had that opportunity, I would do the same thing he did. I'd listen to my song 50,000 times and practice it over and over and over. So you'd like to think that as professionals, these guys are going to give everything their all every single time, regardless of whether it's being judged or whether it's being not, just as a matter of self-pride and for the fans. So I think it was a good answer as far as, no, he's not, what he does in Poland, he's going to put the same effort into what he does at the Arnold. But, I think everybody has the same questions. How's it going to be judged? And we go right back to what is quality posing versus what is entertaining posing, and which should be awarded more points, and that becomes difficult. So I like the idea that these guys are going to put more effort to it, but I think it should be a first, second, third prize money thing for best posing, as opposed to being added to the scoring of the competition.
Well, we'll see how that pans out. Poland obviously up first. Kevin Levrone and his show coming up at the end of this week. And then, of course, the Arnold's, the big kickoff classic, of course, as always, here in the States. That's coming up in just about a week and a half now. All right, David, questions from our loyal people.
Questions from the forums.
What do you got?
Mike, BMC, Big Mike Ox brought up a good question, and he wanted to know whether we thought the Nicole Wilkins era was over with Latoya Watts as your new figure Olympia, Latoya being relatively young.
Sure.
And I think it's a good question. If I have to answer that question, I'm going to say it just depends on what those girls bring each year for the show. I think structurally, Latoya is going to have an advantage over Nicole. I think structurally, Latoya is going to have an advantage over just about anybody that gets on a figure stage, whether it be now or 10 years from now or ever. I think she's that good. That being said, as far as Nicole being done, not by a long shot. I mean, if you see pictures of Nicole off season, on season, she looks fantastic. If Latoya comes in off a little, and Latoya is relatively new to the professional scene, so she's been consistent. If Latoya comes in off a little and Nicole comes in and she's at her absolute best, I'm not going to say that Nicole can't get her title back. And as we know, Nicole flip-flopped with Aaron Stern for a couple years. She was the only person to win a title, lose it, win it back, lose it, and win it back. So Nicole's not new to setting those kind of records, and I am by no means in any position to start writing Nicole off. But structurally, Latoya is going to have the advantage.
All right, well, we'll see how that plays out. I think it's like boxing, David. I think if you lose 2 in a row, maybe you got to start thinking about the next chapter. But hey, Nicole comes back and wins. Now you got the rubber match. I mean, she's in the game still, but Nicole still looks great. So, looking forward to that matchup right there. Yeah, one more question, Dave. We got to get out of here. What do you got?
I tell you what. It's something not really a question, but something I wanted to comment on the forums. And a congratulations to Brad Rowe. Brad Rowe posted a picture on social media this morning. I thought it was one of the coolest things. He's getting his picture put up at the Mecca at Gold's in Venice. Now, anybody that's been there knows they have all the black and whites on the wall, and you have to be a pretty stellar competitor. All the Mr. Olympias, all the legends from back in the 80s and 90s have their picture up on the wall. And, for some people, I think they might look at that and say, okay, so a gym is putting your picture up on the wall. But in the context of this little industry, it is a huge deal and a huge accomplishment to Brad. Genuinely one of the nice guys in the industry, and I think that's awesome and just a testimony to his hard work, and couldn't happen to a nicer guy. So, yeah, are you up there? Are you up there, Bob?
I am on the wall. That was one of my goals coming up as a young bodybuilder, of course. And yeah, I got the only. You talk about black and whites. I have the only black and white photo up on that wall with all the USA winners. So obviously it kind of sets me apart real nice. And
okay.
Little homage to the old school there, bro. But
was there anything that you saw on the forums that jumped out that you wanted to talk about?
No. Hopefully we'll get some good stuff this week going. But real quick, because we only got a few minutes, David, you were out in my neck of the woods just last week, even though we weren't able to get our schedules together. But you were out here at the ATL, man. What was going on?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed I didn't get the gym session or a dinner from Bob. No, I was actually down there. It was a cool trip. High Tech Pharmaceuticals, they're our sponsor for the Levrone Classic, the Arnold Australia. Their headquarters and their production plants are actually down in Atlanta. So them being one of our big sponsors, guys that really do a great job of working with us on making us be able to do what we do at these big shows. We wanted to show them some love. So myself, our sales guy, our head sales guy Todd, and one of our videographers, Brendan Jones, who got you've met Brendan. He got aptly nicknamed Lil BJ down there, which is I don't know that that's a good name, but anyway, we were down there doing some promotional work for them, touring the facilities. It's pretty cool, you know. Honestly, before High Tech picked up our Olympia sponsorship last year, I didn't know that much about them. It's like a parent company. They have this umbrella, and they own, I believe it's 8 or 9 other supplement companies. ALR, they bought iForce, LG Pharmaceuticals. They have their own High Tech brand. And on top of that, they manufacture a bunch of other supplement companies' products at their facilities. That's some confidential stuff I can't really get too much into, but it's a really cool setup. So I got to tour their production facilities and stuff like that. You know, where you're walking in and you see these giant vats of whey protein and their mixing stations and everything, and all the machines packaging samples and buckets and stuff. So it was pretty cool. It was hard for me not to want to start grabbing stuff off the shelves and tossing it in my backpack, but they took care of me in that department too. They sent me home with a whole bunch of product and stuff like that. But yeah, they're our sponsor for a lot of our shows. We want to show them some love. So really cool group of guys down there. It's just kind of like, I went down there. It's like, okay, I got to meet their the head of their corporate divisions and stuff like that. And it was just like kind of like an old boys club. Spent half the time BSing about cars and airplanes and stuff. Did a little bit of business, but it was cool. So
very cool. Well, David, thanks for the report and the update. Of course, you're off to Poland in just a few days, so we'll wait till you get back for the post-show report. And obviously, you'll be there live to see all the action. And next week, the Arnold preview, bro. We'll go over that. And I believe the return of our friend, Mr. Peter McGuff, is in.
We are so definitely looking forward to getting Peter on, and we should be able to get everything lined up with him next week. So I'm looking forward to it.
You got it. All right, David, that's going to wrap things up here for the last rep. I'm Bob Cicherillo along with David Baye. We'll see you next time.